Hi and welcome. Thank you all for joining us for today's interview with Jennifer Likness.
Yes.
I got it. Perfect. I wanted to ask you how to pronounce it before and I forgot, so I'm glad I got it.
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Very
Good.
excited. I'm going to ask you so many things that I know are going to help so many people. So
let's do it.
Let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's share with our audience a little bit about your story and how you eventually got to carnivore.
Okay, so I've been suffering with 2 autoimmune diseases pretty bad for the past couple of years after a couple of COVID infections. And I was desperate, absolutely desperate for relief. I was on chemotherapy drugs and another immunomodulator that they wanted me to start, and it's still in my fridge. I've never started it. And I honestly, Sarah, was so desperate and feeling so hopeless. And I just started seeing these posts on Instagram of just like a piece of meat. And so I was like, what the heck is this? And so I just started clicking on them, and it led me to Nutrition with Judy, Dr. Saladin, the whole carnivore community that's out there. And I just started researching and just dove in 100%. And I'm talking hours and hours and hours every single day until I felt comfortable incorporating it, because I'm a nurse. And so this completely destroyed my paradigm of health, of what I thought I knew. So once I initiated it, I responded pretty dang fast, and I got so much relief, completely turned my life around.
What were the autoimmune conditions and what were your symptoms?
Ankylosing spondylitis and rheumatoid arthritis, and irritable bowel disease. So my symptoms were just between the ankylosing spondylitis, which attacks the axial skeleton, the SI joints, and it attacks so many different things that are just really crazy. And I had every single textbook symptom of that disease, every single one, down to the heel pain and the eye pain. So between that and rheumatoid, which mostly affected my hands and my wrists, mostly, but then it attacked my knees, my ankles, my toes. I was in trouble. I was in a lot of pain, so inflamed. My gut was a mess. And
so did you have diarrhea and constipation?
Constipation. I've struggled with that my entire life from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So everything got better really fast on carnivore, really fast. And like I said, I researched it so hard and so long that I knew what to do and when to do it. So I have had 0 mishaps, like 0.
Wow. Did you have the low back pain with ankylosing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Severe.
Soreness.
Severe.
Couldn't sit for too long. Is that right?
Yep.
All those things. And how old were you? So you said 2 years ago it started. So what age was that?
So I've been dealing with ankylosing spondylitis since I was a child. It manifested in my childhood, but it didn't stay. It would come and go and, wax and wane. I was in and out of the hospital. They called it, they didn't know what it was at the time. They called it irritable left hip syndrome, and they would put me in traction. And I just would have these periods where I couldn't walk, and I would be in excruciating pain, but I never got a diagnosis till I was 26.
Wow.
After having babies. So I've been dealing with that my whole life, but I was before COVID, I was in remission for so many years that I kind of forgot about it. I forgot that I even had it, because it just, it was in full remission. All I did was cut out wheat and dairy, except for eggs, back when it went into remission, and it just disappeared. And I was just tickled pink, and it wasn't even on my mind until after COVID. And then all those pains started coming back, and I was devastated, and I was scared, because by that point I had already been diagnosed with rheumatoid, and I was on chemo chemotherapy drugs for the immunosuppression. And
did it work? Did the drugs work for the arthritis?
the methotrexate worked wonderfully, honestly, at first. With my first flare, I started methotrexate and prednisone right away, pretty quick. So I was able to get on top of that pretty fast. But I had to keep upping my dose of the methotrexate because it would work for a little while, and then my hands would start to blow up, and then the doctor would increase the dose. So by the time that I started Carnivore, I was on the highest dose of methotrexate. So if the methotrexate was to stop working for me, I was going to have to go another route. But at that point, my rheumatologist had said to me, we've got to keep the horse in the barn. And so he just kept increasing the dose. And then when the AS started to come back, I went to my rheumatologist and I said, I've got AS, it's coming back. And he said, no way, there's no way you can have both of those diseases in conjunction. He didn't believe me because he didn't diagnose me with AS. I was diagnosed at age 26 by a doctor that I worked with back then that did the blood work and the x-rays and, based on my symptoms. So talking to my rheumatologist about the AS, he just said, there's no way you can't have both of these diseases at the same time. And I was like, oh, okay, that would be fantastic, So he ordered the x-rays and he had to call me and apologize. He reviewed my x-rays with another doctor and they were like, that's ankylosing spondylitis right there. And damage is already starting to be done. Like my lumbar spine is starting to fuse. So I do still have low back issues right now, even on Carnivore, that I'm hoping will continue to heal and get better with time, because I'm still so new. I'm only like 3 months in. So
how long after you started a carnivore diet did the symptoms go away?
Within a couple of weeks.
In 2 weeks. Wow.
Not even kidding. But you have to realize I was already eating pretty healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I was already eating pretty healthy and working on my gut, doing all the things. So I didn't go from terrible metabolic health at all. Like I was metabolically healthy and, in shape, fairly healthy, or so I thought, except for being so incredibly inflamed. So I responded so quickly and I'm so grateful. But my mind has been blown, and still to this day, I just get mind blown every day by it.
How was your diet, the quote unquote healthy diet that we all thought was healthy? What were you eating? Just so people can see what we've been told is healthy can actually lead to kinds of autoimmune conditions.
Yeah, so I was eating fruit, organic, healthy fruit, vegetables, nuts and seeds, not a whole lot of meat, because I've never been a big meat eater. I've always liked it, but I only ate it when I craved it. So not a whole lot of saturated fat, like no saturated fat, zero. And let's see, nuts and seeds, occasionally fish. And I didn't really do anything terrible, but I was eating every once in a while, like the organic junk food, like the organic popcorn and all of that stuff that's still total junk. But my diet was seriously, it was good. I was not
by traditional standards. Yeah,
by traditional standards, I was eating like pretty dang clean, and I was so inflamed time and time again, and at a plateau with my fitness, just maintaining for like 2 years, just never ever getting ahead and just working so hard. And once I started eating Carnivore, everything completely turned around, everything.
Wow, that's amazing. How is your diet right now? Can you guide us through what you eat now in a typical day?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I intermittent fast. I've been doing that for almost 10 years. And I still do that. It's the only thing that really regulated my hormones after I had a hysterectomy. I had a hysterectomy years ago, but I kept my ovaries But I could not really get to feeling great until I incorporated intermittent fasting, and I've been doing it ever since. And my body loves it. My gut loves it. So I fast from anywhere to 18 to 20 hours, and then I feast. And I break my fast with the fattiest steak I can find. And then that fills me up so greatly that I seriously, I can't imagine eating any more for the entire day because I'm so full. I also use a lot of butter. The higher fat that I eat, the better I feel.
Okay.
And so that's meal number one usually. And then a couple of hours later, I will do as many like beef patties as I can with butter.
The fatty meat patties? Okay. Like 80%, 85%?
They're 80-20.
Okay.
So and I do use a blend that has heart and liver in it, a ground beef blend.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it. That's what I'm doing right now.
So it's 2 meals a day.
And I'm completely full. I'm completely satiated. And when I stick to those foods, that's when I feel the best. That's when I have the best workouts. That's when I build muscle. Yep.
Do you do salmon, eggs, bacon, cheese?
I do. I don't do cheese. I'm not doing cheese. I'm not crazy about cheese. Every once in a while, I'll have blue cheese crumbles on my steak, like if I go to a restaurant or something, but most of the time, no. I will eat eggs when I crave them, but it's not a daily thing. And I will eat salmon when I crave it. And that's not a daily thing either. But salmon, I've noticed, has been starting to give me a little bit of like a gurgly stomach and belchy. And I've never noticed that before. Things that I've always probably been experiencing, but not so tuned into them. Now I'm so fine-tuned and I know exactly what it is that's going to bother me. And I just kind of get turned off at that point. So right now I'm kind of turned off by salmon because I don't enjoy belching and having a gurgly stomach. So
yeah. Do you ever get cravings? Do you ever cheat? Zero cravings?
Zero cravings. That took about 2 weeks too. It took about 2 weeks to go hardcore and get fat adapted. I felt pretty crappy for that 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden I just started feeling really good. And I just am not willing to jeopardize that. And like I said, I haven't had any mishaps. I've just continued to feel good.
And that's the thing, when you forget what sweetness tastes like, what carbohydrates taste like, it's just so much easier, you know?
Yeah.
Because the cravings are brought on by the memory of that taste. It's very addictive. And so
it's not even on my mind. Not even on my mind.
Exactly. So yeah, just, you know, you got to stay strong for those first 2 weeks. And I hear that so often from so many people, you know, that it seems like 2 weeks is like where the sweet spot is, and where almost everybody almost agrees, like after that, no more cravings. And it's just so much easier to stick to that diet as opposed to every day having that and remembering it and having to use a lot more discipline to stick to whatever meal plan you want to follow. So it might seem that it's very restrictive from the outside to just be eating, you know, meat, but it actually feels so freeing, as clearly you can attest.
I can totally attest to that. Yep.
Amazing. Are you off your drugs now?
Oh, yes. I am completely I'm off of my methotrexate, everything, and my hands are in the best shape they've ever been. And I've experimented with a few things. Like I had some artichoke. This was weeks and weeks and weeks ago. And I had artichoke, grilled artichoke at a restaurant, and my hands were red and puffy the next morning just from that. That's how sensitive I am to plants. I cannot have plants. I don't want them. I just can't do it.
Do you do coffee? Okay.
Nope. I do coffee enemas. I've been doing coffee enemas for years. you know, back when I was really struggling with irritable bowel, those along with a cleansing enema prior gave me so much relief. And I honestly think that if I hadn't been doing those all these years, I think my liver would be in a lot worse shape, honestly, especially with the methotrexate that I took for a year and a half.
Wow. Yeah.
Which just destroys the liver. I've been protecting my liver for quite a while now. It's something I really believe in. It's something I'm going to keep doing. So,
yeah. And I'm wondering, what was the reaction of your doctor when you followed this diet, and at the beginning, and then after you quit having to use the medication?
he's not even interested, Sarah. I told him my daughter is autoimmune as well. And I took her to her rheumatology appointment, which is my rheumatologist. And we were there for her. We weren't there for me. And I just said in passing to him, I said, hey, Dr. Walker, at that point, I wasn't off the methotrexate yet. I just had started Carnivore. So I told him, I said, hey, I have been getting a lot of relief with all my symptoms with diet changes. And he goes, oh, good for you. And just kept typing.
Wow.
He wasn't even interested in what I was doing.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Wow. I believe you, because I see that every day on a regular basis. Yeah. They dismiss it automatically because it's so different than what they have been taught. And not only that, even if they know they're not really having much success with their patients, it's like you have to have so much courage to open up your mind and follow that line of reasoning and see all those success stories. Because once you open up your mind, I don't think you can work within the system anymore. And so
no, it's undeniable.
Yeah, because eventually it's like most of your patients will not come back to you because your prescription is going to be basically just eat meat unless you are a surgeon and like, you know, some urgent care things, like accidents happen. But the vast majority of specialties really thrive off of people's bad diet habits. And even like you said, like what we think is a healthy diet. And that's how they live, and that's their job. That's how they make money, and by prescribing the drugs. And so imagine actually having the courage to exit that model. What does that mean for that doctor?
Right.
You can't work in the hospital system anymore. You know,
right.
they'll remember what I know. You had a podcast with Dr. Sean Baker. Like that's exactly what happened to him. You know, eventually either you're going to exit or they're going to find a way to kick you out, because that's just not a profitable business model.
I hope that changes in the future so much.
It's going to take a very, very long time. But anyway, you were talking about your fitness, and I noticed that you have competed in bikini competitions. So can you share with us a little bit of a history about that?
Yeah, so I've always been into fitness. I didn't really start lifting heavy till about 2016. And I had a major life change at that time. And my girlfriend and I were about to turn 40, and we looked at each other and we're like, what should we do? Let's do something crazy. So we went skydiving. And then after that, we were like, we need to do something more. Like, let's do something really crazy. Let's do a bikini show. So we hired trainers and we got in really good shape, and we stepped on stage, and I did really well. And so I competed 2 more times after that. And I just really enjoy it. I really enjoy seeing how far I can push my body. And I haven't competed in a few years, but I really want to, because my body is in the most phenomenal shape it's ever been in my entire life. And I'll be 46 in a few months. So I need to do it. So I want to.
Exciting. Yes. Yeah. And when you prepped for the shows in the past, what kind of diet did you follow?
Oh, you know, the bodybuilder diet: broccoli, asparagus, tons of chicken, rice,
Tilapia.
rice cakes, you know, all that crap.
Right. Normal, and whey shakes and things like that. right? Hello, Jennifer's
That's my
son.
16-year-old son.
Making him famous.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your current meal plan. Oh, before that, so you don't drink coffee, right? Have you drank coffee before and then decided that you needed to quit? Like, what was that
Yeah,
experience?
so in the past, I've used coffee like I need it to pick me up. I haven't been that way in a really long time. Before Carnivore, I would have a coffee here and there, definitely not every day. But it would always make me feel anxious and my heart would start pounding. And so I decided to just give it up. Like I said, the only caffeine that I get is whatever gets into my system from the coffee enemas. So
Right. Yeah, you probably absorb a small amount of those.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, I quit coffee too. November 13th.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that date. But I tried I tried for 30 days and then I tried another 30 days. I was able to do those. And then finally on November 13th, I tried again. And this time it stuck, and like I know I'll never ever touch it anymore. Like sometimes I will have slept like only 2 hours at night, you know, if I didn't get a good night's sleep or something. And normally that would be like a cue, okay, let's go. It's very difficult to, you know, go through my day without it. And then you realize, no, it's actually not. You're going to feel groggy in the first 2 hours, like at 4 o'clock in the morning. But then once the sun's up, I don't care how little sleep you got. If you're used to not having coffee, you can just operate normally. And so, yeah, it's been 7 months now, and I'm more than 7 months. Yes.
Awesome.
It's so freeing, you know, because I get addicted to that. You know, it's like if I go back, I know like it very quickly progresses to from 1 cup of coffee a day to 2 to then, you know, it's just, and headaches. It gives me headaches, which is why that was my main motivation for completely cutting that out. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the more that I learn about the coffee bean and how it's harvested and how many chemicals and toxins are in it, why would you drink it? It's really, really terrible for you.
Yes. Yeah. The mold overgrowth is
The
so
mold,
prevalent.
yes.
Yeah. And even if you get the best kind of coffee, like the most organic, best cultivated type of coffee, in and of itself, the caffeine is literally the coffee bean plant's natural insecticide.
Right.
That's its whole purpose, you know, to dry
Right.
and kill off any organism that tries to eat it. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Okay, so I wanted to come back to your current meal plan. So obviously you're not doing cheat meals because
no
that
cheat
would
meals.
not be, yes, that would bring back the cravings and the pain and the suffering. We do not want that. Are you taking any supplements right now?
The only supplements that I'm taking are the desiccated organs from Heart and Soil and the fire starter, the stearic acid. Like I said, because I do so much better on high fat. And so I do supplement with those, but that's it. And before Carnivore, I was on so many supplements. We're talking like over $600 a month because I was getting the best of the best, right?
Right.
And getting all of them. And it was a full-time job just taking those at this hour, and those can't be combined with this, and this has to be taken with food. And like, it was a full-time job. And that felt so good to go and cancel all of those subscriptions with those companies and no supplements, nothing.
Isn't it amazing everything that you've been doing, and even with all of the healthy eating and all of the supplements, and I'm assuming you were also lifting, right? And doing exercise. And still you ended up with 3 or even 4 diagnoses, you know, between the arthritis, the IBD, the ankylosing spondylitis. I think there's something I'm missing.
SPK in the eyes. Yeah.
There you go. So it's, you know, it's mind-blowing how broken our current system is. You know, the dietitians, the doctors, like the whole medical care system is just so ill-equipped to deal with over 99% of the conditions we're suffering from, which is chronic disease that is that is coming from our lifestyle. That's not like an accident, you know, that happened.
Right.
Alrighty, so we've done your current meal plan and all that kind of stuff. In 2 weeks, all of your symptoms resolved, which is mind-blowing. Let's talk about your current exercise program. How's your exercise right now?
So I don't do cardio. I just lift. And I lift, when I train really, really hard. And since going carnivore, I'm able to lift heavier. I'm putting on muscle really fast, actually. It's been really mind-blowing. This is so exciting, but I'm able to work out harder, longer, heavier, and the recovery is better. But yeah, for right now, all I do is lift. I just, you know, split it up, and I don't ever work out more than 2 days in a row. I've learned that two heavy lifts, and then definitely a rest day, and maybe even 2. And that's how I feel the best. And that's when I build the most muscle. Like today's my 2nd rest day in a row, and I'm going to have a 3rd tomorrow because I'm just listening to my body and what it needs. So that's what I do. Just lift, no cardio.
And when you go to the gym, do you do the whole body, or do you split it, upper body, lower body?
I split. Yeah.
And
I
for
split.
how long do your sessions last?
My shortest would be an hour. My longest would be 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the recovery, how much faster do you feel recovery is on carnivore compared to when, you know, before, and you were even competing? So you're very well fine-tuned to that, right?
Yeah. So the soreness that I used to have, that's improved greatly. And it's almost like a different kind of sore. The soreness that I would get after lifting before carnivore, it was like but it was also, I was inflamed at the time as well. So I don't know for sure if it's the soreness or the inflammation that made the difference. But when I'm sore now, I'm like, oh, that kind of feels good. And ouch. But before it was like, oh my God, like I need to sit down. It hurts so bad.
You felt drained. Yeah.
Felt drained and so stinking sore, so sore. Like it would hurt to get in and out of the car because I would be so sore in a certain muscle group. And it's just so frustrating. But
I've experienced the exact same thing. That was like the biggest thing. It was just so eye-opening that you realize it's actually the food, not that you went so hard with your workout. I mean, who would have thought? I love it. I love it. Yeah. Okay. How is your sleep?
So when I do everything I'm supposed to do, I sleep great. I sleep great. When I eat the right foods and I take enough rest days. Last night's a perfect example. I slept over 9 hours, and it was much needed after a couple of days of not really like fasting too long. And I went out to dinner with a girlfriend, and I don't know if you watched that video of mine, but I experimented with a glass of wine.
Okay.
And I don't drink. So I had that one glass of wine, and it took me a full day to recover.
Arthritis?
No, a little bit, just a little bit, not terribly. If I had had more than one glass, I think I would have had more symptoms, but it was like, I just felt like crap, and I was emotional. I was a little bit dizzy the next day, and I just didn't feel right. I didn't feel right.
Yeah, I noticed the mood. Sometimes I play around with plants, you know, like I'll just have a salad just because I miss it, you know, like and I always pay the price. So
what do you notice? What do you notice?
The mood, like the next day, not right away, like the next day. I notice like I'm just like almost depressed, you know, even though I have absolutely no reason to be depressed. You know, and it's like so weird. It's like I'm just going through the motions, but I don't feel like doing anything. It is. It really is. Especially things like broccoli and cauliflower. You know, they both come from the same plant. They all come from the toxic mustard seed plant. You know, they've hybridized that, and they've made all kinds of plants from it, like, you know, the broccoli, the cabbage, the cauliflower, bok choy, Brussels sprouts. They are all one and the same plant. and it's got trace amounts of erucic acid, which is literally a toxin that is banned for sale in the United States. That's why you can't buy mustard oil. You can't sell it here because it's so
I did not know that. That is crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And if you eat the seeds, that's the highest amount. Sprouts, second highest amounts. So, you know, this whole trend of eating sprouted broccoli, it's like the worst possible
It's the worst thing. I was doing that. I was eating broccoli sprouts. I was eating broccoli sprouts.
There you go.
Thinking that they were so good for me.
Well, you have doctors.
Chew the seeds to release all that sulforaphane. And so I would chew on those seeds and swallow that. I cringe. I cringe.
There are doctors who do that and that recommend it to their audience, you know. I highly recommend people go and Google, I think his name is Jed Fahey, and I think he was being interviewed by Dr. Rhonda Patrick. Go Google that part where there's like a very long podcast, like over 2 hours long. But in the beginning, in the first few minutes, they talk about the history of sulforaphane and how they decided to go with the promotion of broccoli sprouts, because the initial intention was to promote broccoli seeds, the dark black little seeds, and they were like, that's not very marketable. That was the thought process of that. It was really a biotech company that, you know, brought him over to explore this idea. And they were like, those seeds, they're not marketable. They're not green. People aren't going to like to chew on like black seeds. Let's go with the sprouts. Like,
what was his name again? What's his name again?
Jed Fahey. Let me double check right now and I'll tell you. I'm pretty sure. Jed Fahey and then Dr. Rhonda Patrick. That's the interview. Yeah, Jed Fahey, Jedfahey. It's very easy. Like, it'll show up the moment you Google it. I'll link it below actually for everybody.
Perfect. Yes, great idea.
Check it out, just to know the history. I think when you educate yourself on the history, you understand how a lot of the nutritional recommendations are opinions of people who choose to, like, it's like a confirmation bias. They already think that plants are healthy for you, so they just go and like they do the studies to promote that certain view. But there's almost no doctors out there that have entertained the thought of meat being the optimal human diet, hence why nobody has even bothered to run those studies. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just means that there's no studies because nobody bothered, you know, which is mind-blowing, because that is the food we ate for 99.99% of our existence as a species here on Earth. Anyway, let's go back to the fun topic, bikini competition.
Yes.
Did you do steps on top of your workouts? How were your workouts? How much did you work out per day? How much cardio, and did you do steps?
What do you mean steps?
You know how a lot of competitors, they will do their weightlifting and then they will do their structured cardio, and then they will add, let's say, 10,000 steps on top of that. Some people even.
Oh, gotcha. No. I honestly, my trainers wanted me to do cardio, and I just hate it so much that I just didn't do it. And I maybe would have been a little bit more conditioned on stage. I don't know, but I didn't do it. So no, all I did was lift and diet.
How many pounds did you have to drop? Because you were already, I think, in good shape.
I actually had to gain. I had to gain.
Yeah.
So when I first started, when we decided to do this at age 40, I was pretty thin. I had just gone through a very, very stressful life situation, and my nutrition was poor and I was skinny. And so I had to actually gain muscle and gain weight. And for the other shows, I never weighed myself, to be honest. I didn't weigh myself, and my trainers didn't need to know how much I weighed. They just went by pictures. So, yeah.
How long were your preps?
I did one in as short as 8 weeks one time. The very, very first one that I did was 12 weeks. So
Okay.
anywhere from 8 to 16 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't, especially if you don't have to drop body fat, I
Mhm.
think, you know, that can be, because that's the thing that I feel like takes the longest time. Even
Mhm.
though muscle building actually probably takes longer. So yeah, maybe not. Scratch what I just said. How do you feel with regards to putting on muscle on carnivore? Because a lot of people, especially those who have a body type that needs to put on more weight,
Mhm.
they feel like I need carbs to help me put on muscle. What has been
No.
your experience?
No, once I eliminated carbs and just did protein and fat and cholesterol, my gains, I mean, I'm not massive by any means, but if I were to show you my pictures, everything is just a little bigger, and it's only been a few months, and I'm stronger.
That's amazing. Yeah. And your lifts, like, can you tell from the weight that you're lifting, you know, you're progressing faster with lifting heavier?
Oh, yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. All the
Yeah.
way around. Yep. Every single workout I have, I'm like, damn, this is so cool. It just keeps getting better and better.
That's incredible. I'm
Yes.
so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you're going to be competing again too, because
Yes.
that's going to be
Yep.
very exciting. I'm definitely going to be following your
Awesome.
your journey. Yep. And let's talk about discipline versus motivation, because I saw a post that you had on your Instagram not too long ago about all of the fitness mistakes that you did and that you wish you knew beforehand. And one of them was about, you know, not relying on motivation, and how discipline is so much more, is really the answer. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I don't believe that motivation is even a real thing. It's kind of like stress. Stress is not an outward thing that you can go and subscribe to. It comes from within you. And if you rely on motivation to do anything, really, you're going to choose something else, and you're not going to do the thing. So when you have discipline and there are no excuses, there are no other options, there's no question. You don't question whether you're motivated or not. You're just going. It's just you're going.
Yeah.
And that's just how I had to adopt that mindset. So
yeah,
because I would give myself too much leeway, you know.
I think we all do that.
I worked out so hard the other day, and I've been working out so good, and I can skip today. I totally could have gone on that day.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm just more structured now with my workouts. Like I just have my own rules, and I don't work out more than 2 days in a row, and I take rest days when my body is telling me I need to. I'm not making excuses. I'm not trying to find an excuse or a reason not to go to the gym. I am genuinely in tune with what my body needs on that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I've had to mature into that. That took years to get to.
You had too much what?
I had to mature into that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because we might know it, but applying it is a different thing. Because you might agree with that statement, but then are you really agreeing with it with your actions? Have you really absorbed it? Has it clicked for you? That's the thing that I think can take time, you know. And then you might even do some progress and then realize that, you know, you're still giving yourself excuses and, you know, that little opening for why it's okay, you know, not to follow through today. And then it becomes a habit. It's just a habit. That's all it is. Yeah.
And priority too. Like I don't let anything interfere with my workouts, and unless it's an emergency or something like that. But once that's done, then I'm free to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. But if I haven't gotten that out of the way, I'm anxious, I'm not comfortable, I'm antsy. And so there's just so much relief in getting what needs to be done, and then moving on with your day. And that just takes discipline. Motivation it's not a real word. I just don't believe in it.
Exactly. It's a myth. There's a book actually called The Motivation Myth that fundamentally shifted the way that I viewed motivation. And I highly recommend everybody read this book. I will link it below.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about, you know, how you create motivation by actually using discipline to take the action. The result of that action creates the motivation. But a lot of people go through life just waiting for them to hit rock bottom or for like a lightning bolt to strike them. Oftentimes this never happens, and then you go through life never really having created your motivation. So it's I don't know if I asked you this, how many hours of sleep do you need, and has that shifted before birth?
Yes, it's shifted. I need less sleep. I used to need like minimum 8 hours and above to feel good when I was inflamed, and now I've noticed if I can sleep it at the very bare minimum 6.5 hours, I'll do okay, but 7 is my sweet spot. 7 is where I feel good for the day.
So that's a whole hour and then some less sleep that your body requires because of less inflammation, less recovery that needs to happen. Yeah. Wow. So cool. One more thing. How many children do you have?
I have 4.
4 children. Do they eat similarly to you? How's the situation at home?
Well, 3 of them are adults and they live out on their own. And then my 16-year-old who still lives here with me, he's carnivore-ish, you know, because he's watched me the most. He's the one that saw me every day, limping around, being sad, crying, being in bed at 4 or 5 p.m. every day, not going anywhere, not doing anything, just surviving. And so he's watched me turn around, and he knows that there's autoimmunity in our family and he doesn't want this. So he listens and he is carnivore-ish. So I'm super proud of him, and he loves to work out too. He's in the gym, and he loves having that healthy, fit lifestyle. And then my 3 olders, my oldest son is 25 and he's a vegan. My 22-year-old daughter is autoimmune, and she is on board big time. She's implemented a lot of what I've taught her. She's listening because she's autoimmune, and the doctor, the rheumatologist, looked at her and all of her symptoms and looked at the pictures of her flare-ups, which are strange. And he just said to her, "You're weird. I can't figure you out." You know, with me, it was straight. It was, you have textbook AS, you have textbook RA. And with my daughter, she's just got this mixed connective tissue, you know, problems. And so she knows that she's 22. I had problems in my 20s. She knows that her future is headed to where I was, and she does not want that at all.
And she's still not strict now, I'm assuming, but she's probably working.
She's not strict. She's not strict, but she's probably 90%.
And would you say that that has had any improvement on her symptoms?
Yes. Yeah. Yep, it has for sure. And her skin has cleared up. She's had this acne for years but she eats healthy. She would sit and snack on raw broccoli and just all these vegetables, thinking that that was good for her. And once she stopped all of those vegetables, and it was really hard for me to convince her to do this. But she's watched the podcasts, and she's listening and watching everything that I send to her. And she's quit all the vegetables, and she's eating beef every day. Every time I cook something here, I'll text her to come over and get some. And
you're the role model now. That's incredible. And any other children in you following in your steps?
I have a 21-year-old son. He lives in Denver with his girlfriend, and they're listening too. I'm trying not to overwhelm them. I already did actually in the beginning of Carnivore. I overwhelmed everybody, and now I'm just trying to rein it in and just let them watch. And but my son is starting to have some gut problems, and I'm trying to teach him this is how it starts. And my 3 oldest children, their dad is autoimmune as well. He's got 2 or 3 different autoimmune diseases. And so with my genetics and his genetics, my 3 adult children, I wish that I could completely get them to do this, because I do worry. I worry a lot about their future. I really do.
And I know you mentioned very casually that your son is vegan, so we have to talk about this. How has this discussion, how does this play out? Not good, huh?
It's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like some of it has to do like with almost of a religious following, or like almost of like a cultish belief, like
to me it feels that way. Yes.
Yeah, and most of us who are not vegan, I guess from the outside, you can look at it and realize like you're not really using reason to look at it. It's more of like an emotional thing, and that's why people have such strong feelings associated with it. Even though like you literally you can see your own mother completely reversing something that your doctors told you it like needed really heavy drugs forever. You still haven't been able to see that that is the optimal human diet. And unfortunately, I have spoken to so many ex-vegans, because almost every carnivore is an ex-vegan or at the very least ex-plant-based. They all eventually like realize it. Unfortunately, for some it takes years until their health really deteriorates, until finally they can no longer justify anything, because the environmental argument is wrong. Clearly, we are doing far more damage environmentally with agriculture, and I've done videos on that. Ethically, it also is it's a lie. You kill 25 times more sentient or emotion feeling animals to grow and harvest wheat, grains, beans, legumes, soy, all the things that are needed for a plant-based or a vegan diet. 25 times more emotion feeling animals end up dying, not to mention all of the pesticides you're adding to those foods. But even if you do it organically, you cannot grow a head of lettuce in your garden without having to kill off the insects that are going to attempt to eat that before you get a chance to eat it yourself. So the problem with veganism is that we have become so disconnected from how food is grown that we are so easily manipulated by all of these companies that are standing to make tons of money by selling you their own products that are plant-based. There's tons more profit to be made with plant-based diets versus a farmer that's growing, cattle. So they can afford to sponsor the blog posts and to commission the influencers and all of those people. It's not like they are ill-intentioned. They naively believe this stuff, and their health hasn't gone to shit, sorry for my French, yet. And so they think that that's good. And so they accept the commissions and they accept, this partnership. And unfortunately, that's the vast majority of the people, when they start wanting to get healthy. You go on Google and you Google it, and the vast majority of the listings that show up are plant-based. You really have to go through the ringer until you eventually realize that you have been duped. I mean, nobody's been duped more than me, a dietitian, and then a PhD, decades in the field, and still I believe the wrong things. I mean, what chance does somebody who's not in the field stand,
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, rant over. Do you feel that we forgot to touch upon any important message, or what important message do you feel like we need to leave our audience with?
I'm just trying so hard right now to just keep putting little tidbits out there to get people's interest, and I'm getting a lot of feedback. So I'm just really focused on that right now. And it makes me happy to hear people say, I have RA too. And I'm so excited I found you, and tell me what you eat. And, I've been getting some DMs from a lot of women who are autoimmune, and they're getting help from social media. So it's just, that's how I'm going to do it for now.
I'm so happy and excited. And I'm going to link obviously your Instagram. Where can people connect with you?
On Instagram, I'm the most active. It's at JenBug76.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to link it, and we'll all be rooting for you and following your journey. And the vast majority of chronic diseases, people don't even realize it's not just a rheumatoid arthritis. It's everything that seems to be autoimmune in nature, even things like depression, anxiety, hypothyroidism. It's all autoimmune in nature. And
What do you think, seizures are also autoimmune in nature?
I wouldn't say seizures. No, except seizures, like, because that would be like keto, really. That would be more of like a fat-based metabolism. Although I'm not like an expert in epilepsy, so there, there might be somebody out there who says so, but as far as I know, I've never come across an autoimmune association with epilepsy. Yeah, but anything other than that, arthritis, we already mentioned that, Hashimoto's, which is like over 95% of hypothyroidism, is autoimmune. What else? Mental health disorders,
Skin issues.
is huge. Eczema, psoriasis, vitiligo. How common are these? Every semester, because I teach at Miami-Dade College nutrition, and every semester I have students, almost everybody has some form of autoimmunity, and those are kids, like they're 17, 18, 19, and almost everybody is suffering from something. One of my students last semester, like, this is just, we just wrapped up, completely reversed her psoriasis just by going carnivore in as little as 2 weeks. And she couldn't believe, not only that, lost weight. She wasn't even trying to lose weight, but she was so happy that she did. Her depression lifted, her anxiety went away, and she's like, I just feel so happy. Like, and she had to tell the whole class, it's like, I can't believe it, just from changing her diet, So autoimmunity is huge. Hair loss issues. So many people, like, they think that's normal as you age, that you start having male pattern balding or thinning hair. That's all autoimmune in nature. So you have a huge marketplace for spreading your message and having an impact. So,
and when we talked about skin, one of the changes that I experienced with carnivore is I normally have oily skin. But since going carnivore, all of my hormones have been absolutely perfect, especially my testosterone. And in the past, I would have to, like, every other day, maybe take the tool to dig out like clogged pores on the sides of my nose. Those are completely gone.
Wow.
Completely gone. And I never thought that would happen because I've been doing that for years. And
never heard that before. That's a new one. There you go.
That's gone. Clogged pores, gone.
Regulates oil production. Wow.
Yeah. And the more fat I eat, Sarah, this is going to sound bizarre, but this is honestly my experience. The higher fat I eat, the leaner I get. So I go extremely high fat, as much fat as I can do.
And you're not counting calories?
I'm not counting or measuring anything.
Do you know, though, do you know approximately if the calories are above what you're, because I've heard people say, like, they're eating definitely more than what, according to the equations, their bodies are burning, but yet they're not gaining weight on carnivore. I wonder.
I'm definitely eating more calories than I was before carnivore. I know that for sure.
Yeah, what I know is that even things like vegetables for me slow down my weight loss. Even things like a little bit of broccoli and cauliflower that in the past for me would be like, oh, this is great. At least I'm not eating carbs, I'm keto. Even that switch from keto to carnivore, removing those slow carbs is a huge impact on just dropping weight so quickly, so easily. And the bloating obviously goes away, the inflammation goes away, and you drop in body fat percentage, like from like testing it.
Yeah. So, and my gut is calm for the first time in my entire life. That's one thing we haven't talked about yet. I have a completely calm gut. Completely.
So what were your symptoms before?
I always had bloating and gurgling and I could eat just a bite of the wrong food and I would have gas and bloating for hours and just want to sit down and lay down, and it would ruin, like, I wouldn't even want to go anywhere after that. I just felt so crappy. And there's just none of that on carnivore. Even when I eat, I went on a girls trip and I ate a 40-ounce ribeye, and that right there was 3,100 calories, by the way. And I ate almost the entire thing. There's a post about it on my Instagram page. It was massive and it was so delicious. But even after eating that massive amount of protein, my stomach was still perfectly flat. I could have went and gone dancing if we wanted to. We didn't, because we're old and tired, but but normally I would be so full if I had like a baked potato with that and had the bread as an appetizer and you know, a cocktail and all that crap. And
then the bloating that you would have gotten, not just the carb coma that happens afterwards and that sluggishness,
right,
like for you, it's also the bloating, the noise, bloating. You just don't feel comfortable going out or wearing anything.
Exactly. Yep. There's just none of that.
And did it take also 2 weeks for that to go away?
Yeah, it took a couple of weeks for sure. And at that 2-week mark, not everything was resolved, but that's when I started waking up and going, I feel good today. When normally I wake up and say, I would walk around my house and say out loud to nobody, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. Shit, I don't feel good. And that's how I would start my day. And I just had one good day, and then I had a second good day, and then a third, and then a fourth, and my mind was completely blown. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
Congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Yay.
I'm happy too. I'm very happy.
Of course, health is number one. You can't do anything else if you're constantly preoccupied with just like normal functioning. You just want to feel like there's nothing else grabbing your attention away, so you can focus on life and having goals and accomplishing things and having fun.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm so happy. And I'm so glad we got to talk, and I'm so glad we got to share your story. It's truly inspiring. Thank you for joining me. I think we covered and touched all of our bases, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So thank you again, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody to watch all of this till the end. I hope you enjoyed this type of content. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Thanks.